Welcome everybody back to the Raw Report on the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. Let's get straight into Raw this week and some major talking points that have come away from Monday Night Raw and a few little Easter eggs I think that has also been dropped. But we'll start with Chad Gable and the his quest for the Intercontinental Championship. Now, obviously, this week on Raw, Chad Gable demanded an Intercontinental match with Sami Zayn at Clash of the Castle, which he did actually receive. Now, however, in the background here, there is a lot of trash talking about with Otis, with Maxine. Otis again looks as if he was going to snap and attack Chad. Maxine gets knocked off the apron during this melee, and Otis then annihilates Sami Zayn, the Intercontinental Champion, and still pledged his allegiances to Chad, albeit in suspicious circumstances. Now, as I said, Chad will go on to face Sami Zayn next weekend at a Clash at the Castle for the Intercontinental Championship. And one would have to wonder whether the contract of Chad Gable plays into this. Now, Chad Gable's contract is very due up very, very soon. He has yet to re-sign the contract that WWE, and I think they're in talks, but Chad Gable potentially going to be a free agent very, very soon. And I would believe that if Chad was to re-sign with the WWE, perhaps the Intercontinental Championship would be around his waist come what Clash at the Castle. It will be a great match, and Chad has certainly taken that Kurt Angle-like response that he's getting from the crowd, and he's certainly using that to his advantage and playing off that very, very well. We're going to talk a bit more about character development later and how it's paying off with somebody else on the Raw review or the Raw Report, whatever you want to call it. But either way, Chad Gable is certainly looking better and better and better as a heel. The contract thing is a concern. I mean, if I was Chad, I would certainly be looking around. I mean, there's options available now to go to other places to perhaps win championships that perhaps he wouldn't get the chance to win in the WWE. So one would wonder whether that would be a tempting aside for Chad to take, to see if he would rather go and maybe test the waters elsewhere for championships or test the water elsewhere for him as a wrestler. We know that obviously AEW and TNA would certainly want him on board. But personally, I think he stays in the WWE. I think he's doing his best work at the moment. Now, the Easter egg that was dropped during Raw a bit later on with Chad is these continuing discussions with the Diamond Mine or the Creed brothers. Diamond Mine, you'd add Ivy Nile into that. I haven't seen Ivy Nile added into any of the discussions yet. So does Chad Gable recruit them and add them to the faction? Or is he going to recruit them and replace Tozawa and Otis, maybe? I don't know about Maxine, whether does Ivy Nile join in and then they take out the other three? They take out Maxine, who Ivy's actually built quite a friendship with. Does she take them out? And the Creed brothers take out Tozawa and Otis. Eventually, does Otis snap and turn on Chad, and that's what sets it all up? Interesting stuff going on in wrestling. I think this week on Raw, there was a lot of development of storyline as well as character development, and we'll get into that later on. But Chad Gable, Sami Zayn, set for Clash at the Castle. The contract status of Chad Gable will play into the result of this match, I should think. Another match that's going to be lined up for the Clash at the Castle, where we had some developing storylines on Raw, is the Women's Tag Team Championship. Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill come to Raw to take on Zoe Stark and Shayna Baszler. However, this match was interrupted by Alba Fire and Isla Dawn. Yes, Scotland's own Alba Fire and Isla Dawn. And they're looking as if they're going to be, or it looks as though it's going to be a triple threat match at Clash at the Castle, triple threat tag between Cargill, Belair, Shayna Baszler, Zoe Stark, Alba Fire, and Isla Dawn, thus including even more Scottish people at a pay-per-view. Scottish wrestling is really going to be hitting the high life at Clash at the Castle. 3 matches at the minute, looking like there's going to be 3 people representing Scotland, or at least 3 different. There's a team representing Scotland in a tag team match. There is Piper Niven, who are going against Bayley, and there's Drew McIntyre against Damian Priest. So interesting how they have shot out on Raw and staked their claim for the Women's Tag Team Championships, looking likely at Clash at the Castle. Will be interesting to see how that one develops, and it certainly seems to be the Scottish invasion at Clash at the Castle. I'm all here for it. They're all tremendous athletes, every single one of those Scottish warriors, so to speak. Are definitely worthy of an opportunity to wrestle over in Glasgow, or Glasgow, as they say on Raw or in WWE. And this match, and this will be a great triple threat tag. Crowd response will be very interesting in all of the three of these matches so far that have got people from their hometown involved. I will be interested to see, and whether or not that twists the character a little bit during. Sometimes you do see that when you're facing the hometown person, and you do sometimes see a little twist in the characters of the other people they're wrestling. So we will keep an eye on that one next Saturday at Clash of the Castle. Now, someone else who is saying enough was enough and it's time for a change was Natalia. Now, Natalia lost to Lana James on her debut on Raw. Very, very good match it was as well. Natalia is another one whose contract is very close to being up. Again, there's a lot of contracts that haven't been picked up left on WWE, and Natalia is one of them. Now, the interesting bit for this is she was saying to Sonya Deville, enough was enough. It's time for a change. I need to make a change. Something's got to change. And you wonder which way she's going to go with her character change with Natty. She's always been a good worker. She's never quite hit the lengths or the heights that she probably should have done in WWE. She has been a multiple-time Divas champion, and I think Andy mentioned it's a great point from Andy when he was on the show, was saying, do you ever remember an Italian match? It's a fair point. You really don't. And she's been in WWE for over a decade now, I think. And with contract expiry coming up with Natty, where does she see her future? Does she see an AEW in her future? Does she see a TNA? Will she go for a change? We know her husband, Tyson Kidd, works as a producer backstage at WWE, but, is it time for Natty to spread her wings? And maybe the time for a change was a subtle hint. Perhaps it is time for a change, and it's time for Natty to leave the WWE. Well, we'll certainly will find out, that's for sure. And I'm intrigued with that one. I think Natty's got more chance of leaving than Gable, in my opinion. That's where I stand on that. Natty, a move might do her good, I think, after all these years, that's for sure. Now, let's talk Money in the Bank. Now, Money in the Bank is coming up in July in Canada, and Jey Uso seemingly has entered Money in the Bank, or he's going to win Money in the Bank. I'm not quite sure how he managed to get in there to win it or anything like that. I'm a bit confused about that. Now, when we had Vince Russo on this show, he wasn't a fan of qualifying matches or tournament matches and all of that sort of stuff. For Money in the Bank, I absolutely am. I think you should have to earn your right to get into Money in the Bank. And Jey Uso seemingly coming out and pretty much saying he's going to win Money in the Bank, and he's not even in it yet, is a little bit suspect for me. I'm not quite sure about how I feel about someone just saying that they're going to be in Money in the Bank. I would much rather them do qualifying matches. Jey Uso is definitely going to be a favourite for Money in the Bank, that is for sure. But in terms of, him just coming out there and announcing it, I'm not a fan of that. I really ain't. I'm not a fan of it at all. And he has kind of been like, he had the world title opportunity. He had that match, against Priest, which he lost. He just hasn't really. The fan, he's still mega, mega over. But WWE do make this mistake a lot of not capitalizing on that moment. And with Jey Uso, that he could fall into the LA Knight category here of someone who is very over, but they don't decide to pull the trigger when they should do with it. And he could fall into that category. Nevertheless, Jey Uso staking his claim through Money in the Bank. He's going to climb the ladder. He's going to be on top of the ladder. He's going to snatch that briefcase and become Money in the Bank. I think you may have to qualify it, young Jay, but I definitely would like to see you in Money in the Bank. Another one I'd like to see in Money in the Bank who had another destructive week on Raw was Braun Breaker, someone who the WWE are getting it 100% right with. He is becoming a character of destruction. He last week obliterated, the opponent last week. This week he went into Ricochet. He beat Ricochet convincingly. It was a great match, though, by the way. But they're doing it right of him. He really is. And last week he actually ran out, if I remember, from the back area, from the behind the ring, and took out Ricochet during his match last week with Ilya Dragunov, who, funnily enough, come to the aid of Ricochet this week. No, they were having a match this week. Jesus. Sort it out, Adam. Sort it out. They were having a match this week, and Braun Breaker beat Ricochet this week in a match. I need to sort this out. Braun Breaker beat Ricochet in a match. Ilya Dragunov come out at the end of the match to fend off Braun Breaker, who was continuing his assault on Ricochet. That's what happened on Raw this week. And getting weeks missed. I'm getting confused with weeks. I think it's because I didn't do a Raw report the other week. I had COVID, so I didn't do a Raw report last week. So I'm getting two matches in my head and getting them mixed up. But this week, Braun Breaker defeats Ricochet. And it looks like next week we'll be going against Ilya Dragunov, which will be another sensational match. But Braun Breaker, WWE are getting it 100% right with the way that they're doing the character, the build, the destruction, everything going around about this character is correct. And I 100% am all here for what they're doing with Braun Breaker on Monday Night Raw. I was concerned when he got moved to Raw in the draft. I thought that perhaps that was a bad move because he just started out on SmackDown. He was doing all the right things. And I thought the move for Raw was risky. But currently, as of right now, they're getting it right with him. And we'll see, we'll be talking in a few weeks' time, and we'll see where he's positioning in. They've not gone straight for like the world title thing with him, which I think is great. They're continuing to push him in the right areas, right level on the card at the moment, so top level mid, where he should be right now, and progressing. And when he does get to, and it makes it more believable if he did then say, I don't know, just say that Drew or Punk wins the world championship and eventually, or Seth Rollins comes back or whatever, and Braun Breaker goes for that top dog, it's believable at that point because he's come back from here and he's gone bang. He's done what he's needed to do. So WWE doing some really good work with Braun Breaker for sure. And potentially he could be in the Money in the Bank. Potentially they'll find a feud after the Ricochet Dragunov one for him. Gold is definitely in his sights. It depends which one. I mean, the Intercontinental title is right there with Sami Zayn at the moment. If Sami Zayn beats Gable for it, I could see Breaker going straight for the Intercontinental Championship and potentially winning the Intercontinental Championship, to be fair. But that is one that WWE are definitely getting right for now. Now, this week, it wouldn't be a week without Uncle Howdy. And the more QR codes, there was actually two. There was a picture, actually, that during Ludwig Kaiser's match with Sheamus, it flashed up above his head, prepare. Now, does that mean they're going after Kaiser and Imperium? Does it mean they're going after Sheamus? Was it just put there just because it was put there? But prepare was above Ludwig's head. And then after that, they took over Raw Talk. So Raw Talk was starting, I think, on the WWE Network or on Peacock. The entrance video, it went all fuzzily like it normally does. And then things like it said, I've shown you the signs and wonders, yet you do not believe. I offered you hope, freedom from the pit. You spit in my face, mock my family, question my timing. One last chance, an opportunity to reprint, but my patience runs thin. There is a reckoning coming. Your belief is indifferent. It is inevitable, and you will learn your finite. I think it's finite. And you shall all behold what we have become. A massacre is coming. And underneath it, the WWE logo with like the Nightbird picture. In between it with your belief is indifferent. And that was during Raw Talk. Now we know it's coming from what the news is that it's coming on the June 17th edition of Monday Night Raw, the Raw after Clash at the Castle. Now, like I've been saying for weeks, there's always this thing of the hype may be better than what happens after. You get all this hype up, the reveal happens, and then it drops down. I'm still on the fence with this, and I think I'm on the fence with this because the last Bray Wyatt return at Extreme Rules after White Rabbit, it was great. He come back, it was fantastic to see. I don't think he lived up to where he wanted to go. Now, there may have been the illness issue that we kind of, obviously he passed away from. I know he got COVID. There was all of that sort of stuff. So perhaps it didn't quite work out for abundance of reasons. With Uncle Howdy, I'm just sensing that the reveal might just be the pinnacle of this group, and then it doesn't go anywhere. But I could, at the same time, it could work. It could be totally right. We need to see who they're going to be targeting on Raw. Now, they may debut on Raw, but what's to say, is there going to be a subtle hint at the end of Clash at the Castle, perhaps, where we can see where the group is going and what plans they've got? It's all up in the air, really, at the moment until we get that understanding of where to go. And there's a lot of cryptic clues about who's in it. Obviously, we're saying Joe Gacy, Eric Rowan, Nikki Cross, Alexa at a later date, maybe. Maybe she comes in at a later date, and obviously Bo Dallas. Without sounding thingy, that doesn't. There was also another rumor, sorry, this week, that Killian Dane, or Big Damo, Nikki Cross's husband, and a part of Sanity, potentially, and also, potentially could be a part of this group. The Wyatt 6 could be a Wyatt 7, could be more than that now. So potentially I think there was a clue that was dropped that sort of linked to him. Again, it could be a throwaway. It could be that he's back. But the group itself, for me, seems to lack star power, in the sense of, I wouldn't see any of these running for the main event, if that, to be totally transparent with you. And not to be disrespectful at all to any of those, but a group with those names, you wouldn't really think, well, it's world title right here, would you? But again, it could be a slow build. It all depends who they target, and that's the key bit. It's who they're going to target first. That's what I'm interested in seeing. Who the Wyatt 6 target first, and more cryptic clues. And when do we get the reveal? Do we get it at Clash? Do we get the full reveal on Raw? Who knows? But it's very intriguing, and we're certain to get another QR code tonight on NXT. And just before we start talking to the last bit about Raw, NXT tonight, the NXT debut of the TNA Knockouts champion, Jordynne Grace. She will be there ahead of her big match against Roxanne Perez at Battleground. And then we should get a QR code there. We should definitely get a QR code on SmackDown. Incidentally, Roman Reigns is finishes this week. So how long before the tribal chief returns to what the carnage is on the blue side of SmackDown? But anyway, let's talk about the focal point of Raw. Now, the focal point of Raw this week was the Liv Morgan Revenge Tour. And Liv Morgan still looking like she's trying to decimate Rhea Ripley from within. In this case, the Judgment Day, she made a point of saying it, that she was taking everything, including Dominic Mysterio, who she was flirting with again. This week, Finn tries to get involved, and Braun Strowman ends up getting involved in one of the matches against Carlito later on, where the Judgment Day interfere, and the Liv stops Braun from attacking Dominic after Dominic was going to try and hit him with a chair. But we spoke earlier at the start of the show about character development, and I said how good Chad Gable's character development was. But then I wanted to step it up a notch, how great Liv Morgan has been in her character since, the Liv Morgan Revenge Tour has kicked off. I was on this channel as a guest nearly 2 years ago, excuse me, after the first Clash at the Castle over in Wales, and I come on and spoke to Andy Parker, and I just said that I didn't think that Liv Morgan was championship material, and Parker disagreed with me on that, and I'm happy to say that she absolutely is. And her character and how she's come across with this new character that she's doing, the heel turn, has worked great. She has played into it so well. And it's weird because she's the heel who's getting off with the most hated heel to get at his girlfriend, who's a heel. but gets babyface reactions. Liv Morgan is doing her best work she has ever done. She's deservedly the champion. She's working very hard. The championship is around there, and she's just becoming a main player. And you think that without Becky Lynch and Rhea Ripley on Monday Night Raw, you would think they would struggle, but they absolutely have not struggled on Raw because of what Liv Morgan has come on and done. She has done a tremendous, tremendous job on Raw, and this week was the same. Still flirting with Dominic. I'm pretty sure Dominic whispered "See you in my hotel room" during Raw at some point as well to her, and it's really building up to an interesting reaction to when Rhea Ripley returns to Raw, whenever that may well be. But superb work from Liv Morgan. Damian Priest did actually beat Rey Mysterio in the main event and put Drew McIntyre through a table to close Raw this week. And it's really weird because Damian Priest, obviously in the Judgment Day, is the World Heavyweight Champion. He's been overshadowed by Liv Morgan and the Dominic storyline that's going on underneath that. That's got more importance in his match with Drew McIntyre in Scotland. It really has at the moment. I don't think the build to that has been great. The biggest build part of it is that it's Drew McIntyre's hometown, which totally get that. That's fine. But yeah, very interesting times on Raw at the minute with the women's champion and her storyline is more important than the men's and his storyline. We know that Punk's going to come back pretty soon as well. So where does that factor in? Is Punk going to get booed out the building in Scotland if he stops Drew winning the title? All that will be revealed in a couple of weeks. Now, the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast, we've got an insanely busy week. We're doing lots of recording this week for interviews that are going to air over the next few weeks with NWA, talking the territories, introducing the territories, some of the stars of the NWA territories to you guys. Gene Money interview will drop this week. Pod Stars interview will drop this week. The NWA Power review will drop this week, as will probably a SmackDown review. And then at the weekend, the week in AEW will drop. But this has been the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. Don't forget to follow us on socials at HTT Buckle on X, Twitter, and Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast on all other social media platforms. And until next time, everybody, buckle down, stay safe.